1K Dreamer Plays.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So as you know, power-up dungeons have been expanded to T15, stage 15. So we are going to check out the teams needed for these new stages. More importantly, these stage 15 stages will give you inner sparks, which will allow you to increase your potential of your heroes, which I'll cover in another video. The most easiest stage to farm for inner sparks is the gold dungeon, surprisingly, because you can actually use your best DPSs, which is Pascal, and use a full-on offensive team just to do damage. Okay, so you pump up as much damage as possible with this particular team. Here I'm using Miho for weakness hit damage increase, Biscuit for weakness hit increase, Lina for critical damage increase, and Kirill for magic damage increase. And Pascal himself gives himself magic attack increase, so all these factors coming in together will give you the most potential amount of damage you can do. First off, go with Biscuit's buff, then go with Lina's buff, and then fire off Pascal's skills, reset his skills, and use it again, and you should be able to clear the gold dungeon stage 15. Very importantly is to make sure that your Pascal can two-shot the boss. If you find that you have difficulty in two-shotting the boss, you can actually use Miho's bottom skill as well to apply magic vulnerability. This gives you an additional factor, additional debuff on the boss, so that you can do sufficient damage to clear the boss. But otherwise, if you don't need to, then you can just rely on Biscuit and Lina's buff and then just use Pascal's skills. So very easy, very fast. This will be the best stage to farm for your inner sparks. Next up will be your fire dungeon. So fire dungeon, we are going back to the freeze strategy. Over here I'm using a team without spike. Later on I'll show you guys a team with spike. So those without spike, you can actually use this team. I actually opt to use 2 healers instead, okay, so that you can have the maximum, 3 healers, so that you can have the most maximum amount of survivability basically. Also, I chose not to use legendary heroes, so this is just to show you guys that without legendary heroes you can also do this particular boss, making this probably the second easiest, okay, or maybe the third easiest stage that I think can be done without legendary heroes. Just to showcase the gears, okay, freeze basically doesn't rely on your own stats, so you usually don't have to worry about buffing your heroes to a very good amount. Take note that you should also use freeze accessories if possible, so that you can have a higher chance to land freeze. So start off with Lania's bottom skill to freeze the Pookie, and then go with Heavenia's bottom skill. These have very high chance to land freeze, especially Lania's bottom skill, which has 100% chance. You can also use Galidus if you do get him. He will also do very well in this particular dungeon. So I've used all 3 free skills already. Over here is really just to sustain my team, because waiting for the cooldown to end. What you want to do is not to let the turn pass so quickly. You will want to kind of drag out the animation quite a bit so that your cooldown can go down. Because if the turn passes too quickly, then the boss will be enraged and then you'll be in trouble. Okay, so try to heal up as much as you can and then cycle through the bottom skills again, the free skills again. I do feel that at some point, okay, I'm very unlucky here, I didn't manage to land the freeze even at 85%. So honestly, if you do have a Maparo pet, you can actually use Maparo instead to boost the effect probability of the freeze, and that will really be very good. Otherwise, you can also rely on effect hit rate set to give you extra effect probability of 10%. I think that will also come in very handy since you have so many healers anyway. So it's more ideal to actually land the freeze than to go for survivability, especially on your Lania and your Heavenia. You can see that my Lania just died here, and that's also because I didn't manage to land the freeze on 2 of the Heavenia's attacks, so very unfortunate, but she did freeze with her basic attack, so pretty lucky there. Here I missed the freeze again, so not the best run to be honest, but if you manage to land the freeze, then I think you will have a much successful run and much faster run. So next up, I'm gonna try the Spike team. So basically I will change out Charon and I'll actually use Spike here. One thing good about using Lucy here is also that she decreases the Pookie's physical attack, so you're actually not taking too much damage. That actually makes a big difference. Okay, if you're not using Lucy, you're using another healer, maybe Charon and some other healer, then you may be taking more damage than what you saw. So Lucy was actually pretty clutch there. Here I'm using Spike and I'm going to use Maparo and of course Lina. Lina is the best support healer you can have. And instead of Yuri, I'm actually going to use Ryan for cooldown increase whenever he basic attacks. This will allow you to cycle your free skills faster. So I start off with Spike's bottom skill, basically so that if Ryan basic attacks, he will actually cool down Spike. And then you can use his skill again later at a much earlier timing. You can see that the freeze does huge damage to the Pookie. Okay, so definitely something that you want to aim for. Try to land all your freezes. Even if you have to go for effect hit rate sets for higher effect probability, I think for Heaveneer only, then that will be ideal. For Spike, his bottom skill and Lana's bottom skill are very likely, if I'm not wrong, 100% freeze chance. So definitely no issues there. So as you can see, the more freezes you land, the faster your run, and it's actually very easy if your team has a lot of freezes. So if Galidus is here, you can actually throw him in as well. I think you will have better survivability also. So for Spike, I've actually given him the HP set, and for Ryan, he's on the block set, and then for Lina on the block set with HP main stats so that she can heal more if needed. Next up will be the water dungeon, which I think is also the easiest. I think this water dungeon is actually the easiest compared to fire dungeon, because fire dungeon, you know, the freeze may or may not land and the freeze can break and he can do a lot of damage to you. But for water dungeon, I'm actually using Yui here, okay, just to have a full rare hero team. But water dungeon for me is quite easy because you can land the poison pretty well if you do have Ray, of course. Ray and Jane, they can land poison, okay, and then you have Chloe here to apply unable to recover. So yeah, I feel that water dungeon and fire dungeon, they are very close in terms of difficulty for me. Ideally, I'm using Jane and Ray on effect hit rate set, okay, Spell Weaver, so that they have higher effect probability to land the poison, because this is the most important thing, okay, to land the poison. Yui here is for magic attack reduction, so your entire team will not be taking too much damage. And for a team that is only rare hero, this is a very rare case where, you know, a whole team of rare heroes can survive a stage 15 boss similar to the fire dungeon, but that's really thanks to Yui and Lucy's magic attack and physical attack reduction respectively. So if you are struggling, you know, you can actually use Yui and Lucy as well in respective bosses. So after applying the poison, I actually don't forget to apply the unable to recover as well, and both of Ray attacks can actually land the poison. So I think it's really RNG whether she does land the poison or not, but ideally you want to use both skills, and then you can actually just use whatever random skill there is. Over here, I can also choose to let the turns go by, because the faster you let the turns go by, the poison actually eats away at the boss's HP faster, so your run can technically be faster in that sense if you don't use any skill. So that is the good thing about damage over time, because the faster the time goes, the faster the HP also gets chipped, right? Unlike the freeze strategy earlier, where it's a bit more dangerous because you're not doing any damage in between the skills as they cool down. So of course the alternative is to swap in Lina over Yui, and basically the strategy is the same, so I will not be showing you guys a demo for this particular comp, but Lina is definitely the better version, right? She can heal and provide continuous healing. Of course, use Maparo if you can, so that you have better chance to land the poison, and I think your run will be way more successful in that case. Next up is the Earth Particle Dungeon. I think this is the toughest dungeon to conquer, to be honest. I was using this particular team. This team actually helped me clear all the way to stage 14, and then this happens. I was taking so much damage that it was very difficult, and I've tried so many heroes in that particular spot. I even replaced Snipper. I tried to use Lucy because this boss does physical damage as well, but I died as well. I tried to use Rudy for Link, also died. Very bad. My Evan could die. I was so surprised that Evan dies. So I'm attempting this now with Alice, as suggested by my friend Castile. He used Alice as well, but I think somewhere my run went wrong. I was taking so long. This entire run took 89 turns, so I honestly don't know why, and maybe you guys have better comps for this. Of course, there are a lot of burn units that you can use. Apart from these units, you can use Phi if you have Phi, because I think Phi is the best burn unit for this particular dungeon. Unfortunately, I do not have Phi. If you have Phi, you can just sub her in instead of Yuri. You can also use Jave if you have Jave, and I don't have Jave again. So unfortunately, I'm lacking two decent burn units. I have to resort to Yuri. Maybe some of you guys will also be in this situation where you don't have Jave, or you sacrifice Jave for other things and you don't have Phi. So you have to rely on Yuri, Rachel, and probably Snipper. The Snipper run was actually very, as you saw, very bad. A lot of units died, and I really clutched it to the last moment by keeping my Rachel alive. So in this particular run, you have to really rely and time your healing skills properly. You have to use the continuous healings from Alice and Lena so that your units are continuously healed and kept alive. Use the shield when necessary. I would strongly suggest holding back Alice's heal for later stage when he does more damage to you, because we are already at turn 44, 46, and he's already quite enraged. So this is when things start to change and he will start doing a lot of damage to you. I think I screwed up here by not using the burn on time. So I actually went to buff my team instead, right, to ensure that they survive better, and also apply the continuous healing. But as you can see, I'm taking a lot of damage. Evan is down to half HP, which is very rare, in many PvE situations now. So this boss is really insane. Yeah, really insane for me. There's only 2 burning skills I can rely on, and if your Rachel doesn't land the burns effectively on her basic attack, then you're lacking even more burns, and that's not a great thing. So you may want to look into using Maparo as well. Maybe not Maparo, because they do have 100% burn on their skills. The reason why I'm using Sherry, right, is because burn is directly increased. The burn effect is directly increased based off the caster's attack stat. So that is why I'm using Sherry to give attack boost. Take note that my units are all on block, because if my Rachel isn't on block, she's gonna get killed in 2 hits. Okay, 2 AoEs can kill my Rachel if she's on the Avenger set. So that is why I'm opting for the block set instead on all my units, even my Yuri. That could also contribute to the slower burn effect, okay, but honestly I don't see another way around. So if you guys have a better strategy using normal units, please do suggest in the comments. Then the next one would be the Darkness one. I tried to use a full rare team. Unfortunately, I failed miserably, right? Because the bleed amount was just too miserable and it was very difficult to sustain all the way to the end. So I'm gonna use, of course, the more advanced team, and that is to use Bidam, and then to use Freya and Leo. These will be your 3 main bleed units. I've opted to use Lucy and Lena as 2 healers, Lucy as the cleanse. If you don't want to use Lucy, you can use Alicia as well for cleansing, that's also fine, right? So Lena here has a double use though. She can cleanse, she can also land physical attack down on the boss, so you are taking less damage. So first thing is to cast Leo's bottom skill, then to cleanse when he uses the death curse or something, and then use Bidam's bottom skill, because once the enemy is bleeding, Bidam's bottom skill will have 100% chance to land bleed as well, right? So after that, you can use Freya's bottom skill. So those of you who don't have Freya's basic attack skill enhanced, it's okay, you can still use her bottom skill to apply the bleed, right? And then once that is done, basically what's left is just to sustain and cycle through your bleed skills again when they are ready. And you can actually, once you have sufficient bleed stacks, you can actually use Bidam's top skill to land the bleed explosion and just call it a day. As you can see, he took so much damage, his HP cut by half. So Dark Element, if you have the right heroes built, I think it's also one of the easier ones. And next we have the light particle dungeon. So this is also a very annoying. I personally feel that the light and earth are the most annoying. So this is the team I used to get me through to stage 14. But for stage 15, I decided maybe not to use Karma because not many people probably have Karma built. But if you do have Karma, he can be used for this particular stage. I'm gonna use Rachel here because the boss actually can do quite significant damage onto you. So by using Rachel's bottom skill, which actually hits twice, okay, not too bad, you can actually land damage reduction on the boss. You can also reduce his attack. So make sure that whenever the boss uses Pookie Beam, make sure you have a buff removal skill ready, which is either Joker's top skill or Chloe's bottom skill. So once you have those ready, actually you don't have to fear taking too much damage because you shouldn't be taking too much damage once you have removed his magic attack boost buff. So just cycle through Joker's skills and then cycle through Yeon-hee's skills. Yeon-hee has 3 multi-hit attacks, so it's pretty good in shredding the shields. There's another strategy later on which I will offer you guys. Make sure to heal up, and one good thing about using Lucy here, Lucy's bottom skill can actually reduce the cooldown for Yeon-hee, so that you can actually use Yeon-hee's skills more often. But of course, the reason why I'm using Yeon-hee at the back instead of Joker is really just to preserve Yeon-hee a bit more because I realize she's taking a lot of damage. Ideally, you will want to use Joker at the back, okay, so that Lucy can actually lower Joker's, or rather hasten Joker's skills, and then you can actually use Joker's skills more frequently and shred the shields a lot faster. Fun fact is my Yeon-hee is actually on the block set for this particular run. Yeah, because I felt that using her on the Avenger set, she was taking too much damage and there were runs where she actually died. So I actually had to use the block set to kind of preserve her a bit more. So these are some things you may need to adjust depending on your gears, right? I don't think it is the hero's transcendence itself. It is the gears. The gear set matters, the gear substats matters, so these are things you need to take note. But otherwise, just shredding the shields and you can quickly just kill the boss pretty easily. Then this is another strategy, again suggested by my friend. He uses Bidam at the back. Okay, Bidam landing the bleed actually can shred the shields as well. So once you have damage over time effects landing on the boss and they proc whenever the boss uses his basic attack, the damage over time effects, the damage that he takes, will actually also contribute to removing the hits of the shield. So that's something you may want to consider as well if you do have a Bidam ready. So again, just do the same thing. Make sure you remove the magic attack boost that he applies on himself when he uses Pookie Beam, and then land Rachel's bottom skill to reduce damage you take. Land Bidam's bleed. Keep stacking Bidam's bleed as much as you can, okay, because these can take off the shields very quickly. So later on, in about 2 turns, you can see the boss going to take his basic attack and it actually shred off about 7 shields instantly when the bleed procced. You don't see the damage from the bleed, right, because it's due to the damage nullification, but you do see the number jump by quite a bit. So once the shields are down, apply a final bleed on Bidam and then use his bleed explosion. His bleed explosion skill will guarantee kill the boss in 1 hit. Yep, so that's it. So these are all the ways you can destroy stage 15 of all the power-up dungeons. Hopefully you don't face too much difficulties with this. And if you found this video helpful, do give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for more videos. Thank you so much and see you!